All right, let's talk about something we all deal with. You know those tricky moments where you're just not sure what the right thing to say is? Well, today, we're going to try to find a way through that. Let's jump right in.
Come on, be honest. We've all been there, right? You tell your friend you absolutely love that birthday gift you're probably going to regift later. Or you tell a coworker their not-so-great idea is really interesting. These little moments happen all the time, and they're actually not that simple to handle.
It doesn't matter if you're in a huge boardroom meeting or just at the dinner table with family. We are constantly making choices about what we say and, just as importantly, how we say it. And let's be real, these decisions feel complicated for a reason, because they are. The line between being helpful and hurtful, or honest and just plain blunt, can get really blurry.
I like to think of it like you're walking a communication tightrope. On one side, you've got being completely honest, and on the other, you're trying to think about how your words are going to land. It is such a delicate balancing act. So to really get a grip on it, we first need to agree on what we're even talking about.
So what do we actually mean when we throw around the word ethics? Well, at its heart, it's just a set of rules, kind of like a guide, that helps us figure out if what we're about to do is justified or not. It's the framework we use to tell right from wrong. Sounds pretty straightforward, doesn't it? Here's the catch.
In the real world, things get messy, fast. A rule like always tell the truth sounds perfect in a textbook. But what about when telling the truth could get someone fired or cause a huge panic? That's when those crystal clear rules can suddenly feel like a super thick fog, and you can't see the path forward at all.
So if we're lost in that fog, what do we need? A compass, right? And that's exactly what we're going to build. Let's call it our ethical compass. The source material, drawing on some great work by McCroskey, gives us this really simple but incredibly powerful three-part framework to help us find our way.
Okay, so here are the 3 points on our compass. It's so useful because it forces us to check in with ourselves. First, what is your intent? Like, what's your real goal here? Are you trying to help or are you trying to manipulate? Second, what means are you using to get there? Are your words honest? Are your actions fair? And finally, what's the likely end? What's the outcome going to be for everyone who's involved?
I absolutely love this quote from the source. It's a fantastic reminder that how you achieve something is every bit as important as what you achieve. The methods you pick, your means, they don't just disappear once you get the result. They're baked into the outcome forever.
And this is where things get really interesting. You can't just use bad methods like lying or cheating to get a good result and then pat yourself on the back for being ethical. It doesn't work that way. For instance, lying to your team to boost their morale might get you a win, a good end, but you use deception to get it. That's a classic case of what the source material calls Machiavellian ethics, the idea that the end justifies the means. But does it? Really?
Now, a compass is a great tool, but it doesn't just work on its own, right? It's always being pulled on by different forces. And the most powerful force acting on our ethical compass, that would be our values. Our values, things like honesty or compassion or success or fairness, they are the magnetic north for our ethical compass. They're the starting point for pretty much every ethical choice we make, and they're what pull the needle in the direction that feels right to us.
Now, here's where it can get a little tricky. We all have our personal values, right? The stuff we figured out on our own, through our own experiences. But then you go to work, and suddenly you're dealing with a set of organizational values, the ones the company has chosen to help it succeed. Ideally, you get what the research calls value congruence, which is just a fancy way of saying your values and the company's values are a good fit.
But what happens when they don't? What do you do when your personal commitment to total honesty runs headfirst into your company's policy on confidentiality? That kind of friction is exactly where so many of our toughest workplace dilemmas come from. It forces us to stop and really think about how to calibrate our compass.
All right, so our compass has intent and means. But there's one last crucial point to consider: the end, the consequences. And this is often the hardest part because our words can create this unforeseen ripple effect that we never expected. And this is where things get really tough. You can have the best, most noble intent in the world. You can use perfectly ethical means like being completely truthful. And yet,
the end result, the consequences, can still turn out to be pretty bad.
The source gives us a perfect and kind of painful example. A reporter uncovers a bank scam. The intent is good, warn the public. The means are ethical, report the facts truthfully. But the end result? Mass panic, with tons of innocent customers rushing to pull their money out, hurting the very people the report was trying to help. It just goes to show, we have to at least try to consider the potential fallout.
So how do we even judge an outcome like that? Well, it all depends on the ethical lens you're looking through. Someone who's a utilitarian would look at that bank story and ask, did this create the greatest good for the most people? But an ethical egoist might ask something totally different, like, did this story help my career? These are two completely different ways of looking at the very same outcome, and they show why two people can disagree on whether something was ethical.
Okay, that was a lot of complexity, I know. So let's bring it all back home. How can we actually take all of this and use it in our day-to-day lives? Let's boil it down into one simple, practical tool.
Here it is, your own personal, pocket-sized ethical checklist. The next time you find yourself in one of those foggy situations, just pause and run through these 3 questions. First, what is my real intent? Be honest with yourself. Second, are the means I'm about to use fair and respectful? And third, have I actually stopped to think about the potential end, the consequences for everybody? This won't always give you a perfect, easy answer, but it will always give you a clearer one.
And as you use this checklist, just remember what the ultimate goal is. All the research, all the theory, it all points to one thing. At the end of the day, ethical communication is about building honesty and creating trust. That right there, that's the true north for our compass.
Every single time you communicate, you're wielding power. It's the power to build people up or tear them down, the power to create clarity or to sow confusion, to connect people or to drive them apart. So the real question isn't if you have this power, you do. The question is, where are you going to direct it?